We're going to go through the ICC Building Codes and Standards test. This is one of the 3 tests required for the certified building official. The other 2 are the legal and management modules. I'll review those at some future point. The Building Codes and Standards test is probably the most comprehensive in terms of basic knowledge of all the codes. Let me go through what the standards are. The IRC, the NEC, NFPA 70. And I want to be clear with that. The IRC has an electrical section. You do have questions from the IRC electrical section as well as the NEC. You have A117.1, that is for Americans with Disability Act requirements, Special Inspection Manual. The IECC, the International Energy Conservation Code. The IFC, the IBC, the International Plumbing Code, and the International Mechanical Code. So you're bringing in a big stack. Now let me show you a couple things. I'm going to show you from the iccsafe.org website as well as the website I have for a free online test. Put this together a few years ago. It's based on the 2015 editions of the ICC standards. I took this, the CBO required tests probably 7 years ago, but the reality is nothing's really changed too much in terms of the substance of the code. You might see some additional questions maybe on electrical storage systems. I doubt it though, Chapter 12 of the IFC and current like the 2021 or 2024 versions, but otherwise the questions are going to be identical. What ICC does is they have a superset of questions that they pull from, and as long as you go through the online tests that I'm about to give you and the highlights that I've given you in other videos, as well as I'll give you some of the highlights for this, for the Building Codes and Standards test through this video, you should actually do okay. You should be able to pass this test. So let me show you really quick. Let me show you what you're looking at in terms of this test. So if you go to iccsafe.org, look up Building Codes and Standards. Don't go to the Florida test. Go to the one that's FB, exam ID. Excuse me, what I mean by that is FB. This is the Florida Certified Building Official. Florida has different ones. You need to go to the one below that at iccsafe.org, and that is the BC test here. So it says BC. BC. That's the acronym that they use to represent the test. They only offer 2021 and 2024, so even though I'm going to go through the 2015 questions, it really is not going to be a problem. But if you look, they'll give you all of this stuff in terms of required references. It's huge. Now, this is only a 2-hour test, 80 questions, but it's fairly complex. I think other tests like the commercial building inspector is harder personally, even though it only has a couple references. But I definitely want you to be aware that it's a broad test. So take a look at this. I've been through this a couple times. I've set up this website a while ago for people in fire protection engineering related fields. When you're a professional engineer, a lot of times you take those PE exams, there's not a single code reference, but if you're typically an engineer, you need to know the codes. And failure on the part of engineers, or anybody really, to know the codes and inspector positions or design positions relates in serious problems. So I put this together a few years ago to do that. So I have 500 questions for the building official test. I'm calling it building official, but it's certified building official BC test, ICC BC. I have it right there. How this works, they're all 10 question tests. So I have 50 of them. And at the top, you'll see it's certified building owner, code quiz 1, 2025, ICC IPC. And how this works is all you have to do is hover over what says hint. It'll give you the reference. So it's different than the ones I've done more recently. I've cut some corners on the ones I've done more recently. I didn't want to take the time to put it together. This, I took quite a bit of time to do this. So if you have, let's just look at question 1. This is from the IPC. You're going to see the same thing in the IBC. It has the same plumbing table there. But how many water closets are required for a church with 150 men and 150 women? I think, man, I don't know. 3 for men, 3 for women. What would it be? Sometimes it's different for men and women. I'd say B. I come down here, hit submit. And what did I get here? Does it give me the number? Yeah, see, so it's 1 out of 10. That's how it's set up here. Your score is 1 out of 10. Now, I wrote this. I didn't use any scripts or anything. I just wrote the HTML. It looks prettier than the ones I use scripts for, but it took me a lot more time. So if you don't know what the answer is on the stuff, just go, in this case, it'd be section 403.1 of the 2015 IPC, or you can go to 2902.1 of the 2015 IBC. I have both references there. If you wanted to regrade, drainage and vents can be tested under air press using 5 psi in 15 minutes, I think is the answer. I hit submit again. There's 2. Okay? And let's just go back to the previous page. You can grab one anywhere, like, I don't know, let's just grab one here. So see how it says IBC now? It said IPC before, this is IBC. You can, it's just going to go through. This one says IRC. So at the top, it's going to tell you what the code book is, and the hint is going to give you the specific. So go to section G2406.2 of the IRC 2015 edition. Here's the problem. Between the 2015 and 2021 or 2024, some of the reference numbers have changed. The substance hasn't changed, but the reference numbers have. So you could actually go to ICC Safe and look at the 2015 version to look up the code, or you can just find it in the 2021 or 2024 editions. I'm not going to take the time to map 2015 to 2024. It would just take too long. So that's how this works. The objective here is, as with my other quizzes that I've developed, I want you to see this. You need to go through this with a specific periodicity. And I write it out here. You need to actually highlight. So this is the 2015 IMC. I'll go through the 2015 IMC with you just as an example. I'm not going to go through all these code books. It'll just take too long. And I've been through some of these code books in past videos. Just look at some of my other videos for highlights. It'll satisfy that need. But you can see how I highlighted here and underlined a certain section. And that corresponds, the underline corresponds with the answer. The highlight just generally corresponds with the reference. So what you need to do is as follows. The applicable reference that I just showed you from each of the 500 test questions, you need to highlight or otherwise annotate. So put, highlight in yellow, annotate if you have some notes, if you want to cross-reference, whatever. And then what you need to do is look up the answer in each subsequent test you take as part of this curriculum. So you'll go through this 4 times. What I've personally found is if you just go through it once and you know the answer and you just select it and you don't look up the reference, well, it kind of cheats you a little bit. Because sure, these are like 75–80% of the questions you're going to see on the exam, guaranteed. The problem is, what about the extra ones or the ones you forget? So if you go through this process and look it up every time, what that does is you'll remember the general vicinity of something because you've already looked up something similar to a question if they modify the question. So even if you know the answer, look it up every time. And then go through that process 4 times. So the first time what you're doing is basically you're just going to highlight the reference. Second time you're going to sit there puzzling, well, where is that reference at? You might need to look at the hint I showed you before, but by the 4th time you've done it, you'll know where that reference is without having to look at the hint, and you'll be able to get in and be able to answer the question or go to the area where the question is. And I've found that this process works extremely well. When I took the commercial electrical inspector, I'd been through this process. I created my highlights, and I talked to people, that kind of thing. And I knew the general vicinity of stuff. So when questions came up, I didn't necessarily know, the question wasn't like directly correlating to my reference, but it was correlating to the reference like on the same page or the same article number or the same section. That's the principle that's going to get you passing this if you want to be a certified building official. CBO would be like somebody, the code official needs to be a CBO. And I'll show you the legal and management, like I said, later. I've developed some curriculum for that, so I'll help you through that. But right now, let's look at building codes and standards. So what I want to do here is, let's just pop something up. I don't want to take the time to look it up. IBC Quiz 40. Let's just look up one really quick, okay? So I just picked up the Quiz 40. Let's go to the 2015 IBC. Go to 1208.3. Every dwelling unit shall have at least one room with a minimum area of 120 square feet, I think is the answer. But the hint was, let's see, the hint was 1208.3. So let's pop open 1208.3 really quick. Okay, 120 interior environment, 1208.3, 1208.3. Okay, 1208.3 is going to be room area. Every dwelling unit shall have no fewer than one room and shall have not less than 120 square feet of net floor area, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so that's the answer. You go to 120, and you can see normally I would highlight that if it was not already highlighted, okay? And then you just go through, do these. I set this up originally in 10 question increments just so you could like do 1 or 2 or 3 a day or whatever. My subsequent ones that I've done really quick with some scripting, you know, they're like 100 questions long. And they're not as good a quality in terms of, you know, how they look. This is a good quality system, but I did this several years ago, and I'm not going to take the time to update this. So what I want to do, I've gone through a lot of the highlights for other tests and stuff. I'm not going to go through this list. It would take me hours to go through all of these code books and show you all my highlights, because they also affect other ICC tests. But let me just go through a couple for you. Let me just run through. I know I went through the IMC when I went through the mechanical M2, the commercial mechanical, but this, I'm going through the 2015 version. So it just has the references associated with the BC test. And while I'm doing that, let me see, let me go through some other ones with you. 2015, I'll do IECC. I know I went through the residential section of the IECC 2021 edition for the residential energy inspector, but the 2015 I just used for the BC test. So that would kind of help you get a feel for what you're looking at. And I think that'll, well, hold on, let me do the 2014. Yeah, there's just a few in here. I'll do the NEC as well. The rest of them I'm not worried about. Go through my other videos on those for the IFC, you know, the residential building inspector, fire inspector, etc. I'll do an ADA seminar video, whatever you want to call it, in the future. I'll go through A117.1 and more for ADA plans examiner. It's a lot more comprehensive than the building codes and standards. So let's get started. We're just going to go through these 3 books. This is going to be quick. There's not a lot. I want to be clear, when you're dealing with 80 questions in 2 hours for all of these references, you're not going to have a lot of depth in any one reference, but you have to know the basics enough to kind of know where to go. I'm actually going to show you the questions I saw on the test and what other people saw, okay, just to help you out. So let's go ahead and run through. Let's start with the NEC. Okay, let's start off. I'm just going to show you my highlights, starting with the NEC. Conductors, and the objective here is, what this does, it saves you some time. If you can just go through and highlight in this video from these 3 of this huge list of whatever, 10 standards, 8 standards, it'll save you a little bit of time. The rest, just go through the highlights and you'll figure it out. Keep in mind, this is 2014. That's what I used to take this test, the BC test. So it's been obviously a few years, but the stuff in here, it hasn't changed relative to what the building codes and standards is going to ask. So let me just run through. I'm going to show you what this is. Depth of working, you know, the standard 36, 30, and 78, very common for what you can deal with. Now this is the handbook. Some of this is like automatically, you know, it's part of the handbook. It's already automatically highlighted. What you need to look is the yellow highlights in this, okay, not the handbook highlights. So come over here, means of identifying grounded conductors, like your neutral, white, gray, etc. Okay, what do you have here? Yeah, more white-gray grounded conductor, flexible cords, grounded conductor. Okay, what do you need here? Let's see, I jumped over here. Okay, so actually, yeah, GFCIs, dwelling units, bathrooms, garages. So that's what they're asking. Just look at my highlights. Where do you need GFCI conductors? Bathrooms, garages, and then I came over here. Kitchens, there they are. So there's your 3 there for GFCIs. Yeah, let's see here. Okay, countertops, wall countertop spaces. You have to, you have to be able to access within 24 inches. Yeah, so the question was, so keep in mind, anytime you're dealing with a kitchen, you got to access a receptacle within 24 inches on any countertop more than 12 inches wide. Islands, 24 inches and 12 inches there again, same thing. Just read that, take a look at it. I'm not going to take the time to read everything here. All right, lighting outlets required. Let's see. Vehicle door in garage shall not be considered as an outdoor entrance, blah, 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 blah. Just read the highlights. Highlight what I did in yellow. Keep in mind, that is not yellow. I'm looking at the yellow, the ones that I highlighted. Okay, let's see here. Okay, over here, lighting load. Yeah, 3 watts per square foot. That's what it comes down to. Square meter. So what they ask is, when you're sizing lighting, it's 3 watts per square meter for dwelling units. This is just a table for sizing. I can't remember the nature of the question, but what I did is the questions that I showed you before in that online test, they're just going to come right from these references that I've highlighted. Okay. Show windows, oh yeah, 200 watts per foot on show windows. And for that came up in commercial electrical as well as the BC, the building codes and standards. So common question you'll see. Show window track lighting, 200 watts per linear foot. Let's see, 100 volt amps, 150 watts. What is that? Track lighting for rooms and guest suites of hotels, 100 watts for every 600, 2 feet, 2 feet, 2 feet. There it is, 2 feet, 150 watts, volt amps. Volt amps and watts are the same thing. For the most part, there's some impedance related issues, but for the most part, volt amps are watts. Okay, over here, clearance of overhead conductors, 10 feet above. And this is different. What are we? I'd have to go back and look at what 225 is. Because it's actually higher over certain areas. I think this is private walkways and things like that. But regardless, just look where it is. It's 10 feet above finished grade sidewalks or from any platform or projection, blah, 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 blah. Remember, 10 feet, 10 feet, and 12 feet. There's some other ones, but just highlight that and read that. I don't have time to read that. Okay, what do you got here? Capacity requirement. Where the capacity requirements are in excess of 2 kilowatts, 2,000 amps. Yeah, just read it. I don't know what it is. Can't remember. Okay. Oh, hold on a sec. I got a couple here. See, I tabbed this with all of the references just to make life easy so I can remember where to go. Because these are the things I remember so I can flip them open and go to it. And usually, if I go through like these online quizzes a little bit, I can remember and be able to better do my job by knowing right where something is. All right, because I took a lot of time to study this. So somewhere, even though it's 8 years old, it's embedded somewhere in my mind. Protection against physical damage. Schedule 80 PVC was the answer. Service entrance cables. So I can't remember the exact answer, but I think you had to have minimum of 80, Schedule 80 PVC where it popped up to protect it from physical damage. I don't remember details. And let's see, I came over here. Service equipment disconnecting means should be provided to disconnect all conductors in a building, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, pretty obvious. Okay, let's see here. This one here. Let's see, grounding electrode conductor. What did I use? 33-aught. So yeah, just know this. Yeah, it's kind of hard to explain when you're sizing, but your grounding electrode conductor can be smaller than your copper conductor, but just know how to size it. And I have a reference here, 310.15 B.16, I think is what that is. But just look at that. Okay, grounding electrode connections. Let's see here. Identification of equipment grounding conductors. It gives you, so green, bare, or one or more yellow stripes for your grounding conductors. Okay. Not grounded conductor. Keep in mind, yeah. There's some nuances here. Just keep in mind when you're reading through this. Grounding conductor, grounded conductor, grounding electrode conductors, grounding electrodes. There's definitions there that you probably should look up. Otherwise, there's some nuances that'll throw you. Okay, next was over here, protection against physical damage. Just read that. The answer was 1 1/4 inch, but I don't remember what it was. Edge of the hole not less than 1 1/4 inch from the nearest edge of the wood member. Oh yeah. So yeah, you need plates. Pretty common in industry, not a big deal. Okay, let's see. Emerging from grade, 8 foot above finished grade. Well, just read it. It's protection of your conductor. Let's see here. 83%. What was that? Just read it. Read this paragraph here. I'm not going to go time to read it. Tables are always handy in terms of knowing what, like THHN or whatever can do. 340.104 was the reference for this stuff if you need some other information. I'm not going to show how to read that table. I don't have time right now. Okay, over here, what do you have? Minimum size of conductor, conductor voltage rating. Yeah, let's see, 14 gauge is what? I can't remember. Minimum size, you have 15 amps for 14 gauge, but voltage rating. Anyway, look at it. I'm not going to take the time to remember what it is. I can't remember. Okay, type USE. Service entrance cable is a USE type cable. Blah, 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 blah. Use is permitted. Max 4-aught UF cable. So the answer was 4-aught for UF cable. I don't remember details on what the question was. For use underground, including direct burial. So yeah, basically you can't have more than 4-aught for that. That was the answer to the question. I don't remember what it was exactly. I think I might have missed one. Hold on, did I get that? Just hang on a sec. Nope, I got it. Okay. All right, let's see, what was that? Electrical metallic tubing, EMT, bends, 4/4 bends, 360 degrees. Comes up a lot. How many bends can you have in a tube? 40% fill, 360 degrees. So just keep that in mind. Okay, ENT. Let's see. What was the question here? Exposure concealed in buildings exceeding 3 floors above grade. I can't remember the question, but I underlined it because it's kind of funky. ENT shall be permitted to be used within walls, floors, and ceilings, exposed or concealed in buildings exceeding 3 floors above grade. But there was a nuance with that I vaguely remember. Anyway, regardless, just look at that reference. Okay, we're almost done with NEC. Minimum size, 18 gauge for fixture wire. Pretty much common sense. Yeah, you're not going to go less than 18 gauge in size. And imagine that's copper, isn't it? Doesn't matter. Typically copper and aluminum, it's a 20% less conductivity for aluminum than copper. So gauge size fluctuates if you're using copper or aluminum. Single motor, 125% rating. So you have to size it with continuous duty application shall have an ampacity of not less than 125% of full load current rating. So when you're sizing your wires, you got to bump it up by 125%. Let's see, class 3 locations. So Fibers, so you have class 1, class 1, div 1, class 2, etc., etc. So class 3 is fibers. You need to know fibers, ignitable fibers. Because if you're designing a system, you need to know what classification your hardware is when you go into it. So this is your class system. A lot more came up for this on the commercial electrical inspector certification or commercial electrical plans examiner. All right, let's go on to this one now. What do you have? Major repair garages, flashpoints, 100 degrees. Yeah, so if your flammable liquids are always defined as 100 degrees Fahrenheit under that. Class 1 Div 2, I just mentioned that. That's the type of environment you'd have to be in for a garage. If you're within 18 inches of the floor, what was the other thing? Yeah, 18 inches of the floor, but they have some other parameters in terms of proximity to where dispensing is, stuff like that. All right, let's see, ventilation. Just read through the section. These are the highlights I needed to pass, okay? So just highlight what I highlighted, read that, know that, this whole class 1, div 1, know where the classification stuff is back, this section here, which is way back, but also know, as far as repair garages. Get a lot of questions on repair garages. Like chapter 23 of the IFC would correspond with the section 511. All right, dispensers, dispensing. What do you need? So there's your division group number here for class 1 locations, 18 inches, again, within 20 feet horizontally in all directions from dispensing enclosures. And I find this helpful. This little map, some of these maps are pretty dang cool. I like that, know that map. I didn't highlight it necessarily, but it tells you what the offsets are and stuff like that for tanks. Okay, let's see. Next one over here. Grounding receptacles, ground fault current. I don't know. I can't remember the question. Just read through that. It's not on the top of my head. It's been too long. Exit signs and directional signs. See, I lined it over here. Just bear with me. I went way over. Okay, so sources of power. 2 independent sources of power for exit signs. Shall have a minimum of 2 independent sources. Power, normal source generally applying the electrical circuit, and an alternate source when. So basically, anytime you have, go back to the IBC chapter 10. Anytime you have a room that requires 2 exits, you need exit signage and emergency lighting. This explains what the lighting power is based on. Standard power and alternate emergency power. Emergency has to come on in 10 seconds. So those are the basics. I'm just giving you the answers that they're going to ask questions for. Mobile home. So keep in mind, mobile home is rated at something allows you to drop to 50, but mobile home at 100 amps, I don't want to give you the wrong information because I think there's some allowances that allow you to drop to 50 amps for mobile homes. Okay, power outlets as a mobile home service equipment shall also be permitted to contain receptacles rated up to 50 amps with appropriate overcurrent protection. Anyway, yeah, I can't remember the question. I know there's other places that call out 100 amps minimum for a residence. And this is important now that we're going to off-grid power. But I almost think the current code is 50 amps, not 100 amps. I can't remember. If you look at the 2020, what are we at now? 2023 NEC. That might be a change. Anyway, regardless, just correlate it with whatever version you're taking, 2020 or 2023. You might want to look at this more because I think mobile homes now are 50 amps and residences are 100 amps. You got rid of all your incandescent bulbs, for instance. So it reduced the required rating quite a bit. I just honestly can't remember. I'd have to look it up. I don't deal with electrical stuff very often, okay? So straight up. I apologize if I'm throwing you. Ratings, shore power. So if you're at a marina, minimum is 30 amps. Let's see, overhead conductor clearance. I mentioned, remember we talked about 10 feet above sidewalks and stuff. So this is clearance in any direction to water, blah, 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 22.5 feet above the water for your clearance. And then you have 10 feet horizontal clearance to a pool. So you got to be way above your water for public areas, a lot more than that 10 feet we talked before. Okay, what's 12 gauge here? What are we at? Installed pools. Anyway, yeah, just read it. I'm not going to take the time. Okay, bonded parts, solid copper. So bonding on a pool is 8 gauge. 8 gauge copper is what required. And it has to be solid. Solid copper, 8 gauge for your bonding conductor. Yeah, a lot of questions will come up on pools. This is something that, safety issue you're going to look at all the time. Fixed metal parts, 5 feet's a magic number 2 if you need to be bonded. So like equipment, railing, things like that. If you're within 5 feet, you have to be bonded. Those great, right? All fixed metal parts shall be bonded, including metal sheath cables, blah, 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 blah. So if it's 5 feet or more away, yeah, so just keep that in mind. Okay, next. Okay, this is the last one. What do we have? 8 feet. Okay, communication wires are 8 feet. So they have to be above 8 feet. Okay, that's NEC. All right, just went through all the NEC stuff associated with the building codes and standards. Let's just jump through the IECC really quick as well. Don't want to bore you too much, but want to get a few of these standards so you can get a vibe for what's going on. COP, you need to know COP, coefficient of performance, infiltration regarding leaking air, things like that when you do a blower test, R value, U factor for like your windows. They actually rate walls with U factors in IECC as well. Just keep that in mind. It's not just windows. Okay, a minimum of 6 inches below grade for your insulation or your protection of exposed foundation insulation. So yeah, 6 inches of protection below grade is what you need. If you're like putting blue boards on the side of a wall or something, you need to protect that. Wood frame and other, so R20. Keep in mind CI is continuous, so you're allowed to do cavity of R13 in whatever this is, climate zone 1, wood frame and other wood. Or you can do 3.8 continuous and R20. Excuse me, R13 plus R38 continuous, or do R20. That's what was the answer was. I think it was, what was the cavity insulation? That's how they would have stated it. In a climate zone 1, wood frame construction, R20. Keep in mind too, these numbers might be, this is an area where maybe there might be some difference. We're going to be ever tighter in terms of insulation. I'd have to stare at this for a while, but I think these numbers may have changed. I'm pretty sure they've changed actually. They're actually like your R60 and stuff now. So yeah, look at the current versions rather than the 2015 version. My test questions may be a little different, so you want to correlate that with the 2021 or 2024 version now, because I think this table, it changed a little bit in terms of minimum insulation requirements. Okay, vertical fenestration requirements. Let's see here. Air leakage for testing. Let's see. Thermostatic setback capabilities for your control system for HVAC. 55 to 85 degrees. I don't think those have changed. Those are kind of magic numbers for heating and cooling, where you need to set back stuff. High input rated service water heating. Yeah, just read your efficiencies there. This is, the IECC might be one book that may have changed. But look, I'll tell you what, I already did the test for the IECC, the Residential Energy Inspector. So you can look through that. I didn't do the commercial one on that, but it correlates very well. And IECC is fairly easy, but just basically find these questions, how they correlate to like the 2021 or 2024, and I think you'll be fine. Interior lighting power, building area method, 0.66 watt per square foot. For sizing. Final commissioning report, documentation. 90 days, certificate of occupancy. Okay, so just take a look at this stuff. Okay, additions, when to execute, requirements associated with additions, renovations, alterations, etc. All right, so these are some listings that I had to know. That's why I tabbed this. So just take a look at that. Let's see in the appendix, residential stuff. Let's see, insulation requirements. Insulation and finished by component, marine. Yeah, I mean, the same tables are here. I can't remember if the numbers are same between 2024 and this or not. You might want to look at that. I did highlight this in my other video on residential energy inspector, though, so you can see that. So maybe I'm not being as helpful as I hoped on this, just because of some subtle changes. A lot like this table is going to be the same, 402.4.1.1. I think it's a different number now, but the reality is it's going to tell you what for your thermal envelope. For the most part, it's going to be pretty good. Okay, so that's it for the IECC. Okay, let's just take a real quick look at the IMC. I want to show you the kind of questions that I was asked on this. Okay, so let's not belabor this too much. I want to go through the IMC really quick. Rough-in inspection, required inspection and testing, just asks for what the rough-in requirements are. Let's see here. Condenser, know the definition of condenser. Why? Yeah, you do. Yeah, you'll need to know that. You'll need to put some thought into this. I can't remember. It was some funky question that kind of, when I did the M2 test. Anyway, a condenser is important to know. Evaporator versus condenser. There's some subtle question, though. Anyway, I asked some good questions on here. My questions stand, guys. When you go through that online quiz, test that I generated, just look at it. I think the questions are still pretty good. Okay, type 1. So the different kinds of hoods you need for like commercial versus non-commercial. So just know that. Let's see here. Area served, appliances. Okay, just read it, highlight it. Piping support bracing, they're always going to ask you questions on the piping support. Just kind of know that table for sure. Central furnaces, 3 inches along the sides, back and top. So I think the question was, how much clearance do you need? Minimum working space clearance, 3 inches was the answer. Along the sides, back, and top. And 12 inches wider than the furnace. Okay, so just know that, read that. I have a question on that. It'll help you embed that in your mind. 3 units and 12, you need basically platform. Okay, just read that. Okay, let's keep on trucking here. 68 degrees. Okay, this comes up a lot. 68 degrees, 0.3 feet above the floor. You have to be able to maintain it with your HVAC system. That's basically what your design parameter is for HVAC. Intake opening, let's see, 3 feet below new containment, 10 feet of the opening. Okay, so just look at that. I cross-referenced 918.5 as well. You want to look at that. Minimum ventilation rates. Yeah, so keep in mind there's a formula attached to this as well. It's not, look at the formula over here. Just keep in mind they might ask you minimum, but then it's based on R sub A and R sub P. So just look at that and go through the commentary in terms of explaining how to use it. For me, in the actual question, this was the answer. So they were looking for R sub P, CFM per person rate. When you're actually doing the design, you need to actually do the formula, but the question didn't ask for that. Intermittent. What this is, so 20 and 50 for like toilets, private toilets, 20 continuous, 50 intermittent, if you're like flipping a switch on or something. They'll probably ask you that no matter what. I just about guarantee they'll ask you the 20-50 rule for private bathrooms. Okay, let's see where we're at here. Okay, what did I find here? Rates are per room unless otherwise indicated. Minimum ventilation rates. I can't remember why I highlighted that. go through the questions. I think I tabulated the questions that I saw. I did that shortly after taking the test. I created that test, the online test that I showed you earlier. I did that shortly after taking the actual BC test, so it was pretty accurate. 8 years ago. I can't remember too well now. All right, prevention of grease accumulation, type 1 hood. Let's see, 1/4 unit vertical and 12 units horizontal. Yeah, to drain your grease. Makes sense. Okay. Exhaust outlet serving type 1 hoods, not less than 40 inches above the roof surface. A termination for your vent outside. Permit holder shall furnish the necessary test equipment and device required to perform the test. You got to know that. That's come up in multiple tests too, as a matter of fact. All right, materials within plenums. 1 and 2, yeah, so exemptions 1 and 2 family units. I can't remember the nature of the question. Just highlight and read that. Connector length. Okay, so you have like your ducts and your connectors. If you're doing like a laundry, a bunch of laundry dryers or something, your connectors are limited to 14 feet. So just keep that in mind. Coverings and linings, flame spread not more than 25. So check out Chapter 8 of the IBC for definition of that, but it definitely makes sense. That's what you want. Okay, lining shall be interrupted. Yeah, just take a look. I want to get through this. Just read that. Let's see, what did I do here? There's that one, that one. Okay, return air riser. So I have a bunch of arrows. I'm just following these out so you can see it, because they all go to all these items answer the same question. I don't remember what it was, but just take a. Oh, this is important. 15,000 CFM. It's kind of the magic number. It's not an NFPA 72. It'll throw you. It has to do with smoke controls, such smoke detectors. Yeah, this will throw you. I'm telling you this because of Fire Plans Examiner. Normally it's 2,000 CFM. It does not include this 15,000 within NFP 72. This is only in the IMC. It's one of those gotchas. And it's kind of annoying. You just got to know that. So just when you read that, if you're ever going to take the Fire Plans Examiner, realize that there's one little requirement for smokes within the IMC at 15,000 CFM for return error. That requires additional action that the NFPA 72 does not. NFPA 72 is the standard for fire alarm systems. All right, boilers. Let's see. UL 834. You have to know what the listing is. Oh yeah, and conform to manufacturer's instructions. This comes up all the time. How do you install something? Is it by the IBC, IMC, or manufacturer's instructions? Default to the manufacturer's instructions. Okay. Top clearance from boilers, information for boilers, minimum clearance from top of boilers. Let's see here. Okay, discharge location, I'm guessing it's condensate. I'm not sure, what is this? Air, there it is. Air, Chapter 5, exhaust for mechanical ventilation shall be discharged not less than 20 feet from a property line. And there's some variations. This is going to throw you. There's definitely variations in this depending on what your exhaust type is. So keep that in mind. It does get a little confusing. All right, we're getting there. Let's see here. Hydronic piping. Hydronic piping gives you the standard you need to judge hydronic piping to for steel pipe. ASTM A53. That was actually a question on the IMC exam, the M2 exam as well as BC. Preparation of pipe ends, cut, square, reamed, and chamfered. The answer was reamed and chamfered, as I recall. Okay. All right, where are we at? Pressurization during installation, embedded joints, embedded piping. Let me just think. Piping to be embedded in concrete shall be pressure tested prior to pouring concrete. During pouring, the pipe shall be maintained at the proposed operating pressure. Embedded joints. Steel pipes shall be welded. Okay, the answer was welded there. Had a couple questions from this page. Okay. Almost through, guys. Let's do this. Let's see. One question left. Protection of equipment. Solar equipment exposed to vehicle traffic shall be installed not less than 6 feet above the finished floor. All right, that's it. All right, so go through those test questions, the 500 that I created. I'm not going to go through all the other reference standards. Just can't do it. So anyway, good luck to you. The BC test is it's hard. I don't know if I'd say it's the hardest though. I personally thought commercial electrical was the hardest of all the ones I took. Yeah, I think that the prep course I set up for you online, free of charge, it's good, it's quality. It's just the references are a little old, okay? But everything except just map it over. You're going to have to map it over anyway to the 2021 or 2024 standards for ICC because they don't offer the 2015 anymore or 2018 anymore for the BC test. So you're going to have to map it over anyway when you highlight. So you'll be able to look those up and see what the current values are. I think the insulation values changed. But anyway, folks, good luck to you. Let me know if this helps out. I really think I put a lot of time in this online test. I think it'll be pretty good. I think you'll like it. You'll do well. Give me some feedback if you pass or not. The certified building official is pretty good on a resume. It looks good. I'll get you the legal and management module in the next month or so. I just got to get the time to take the video of it and show you what it is. But anyway, good luck to you. You have a good one. Good luck on your tests, and let me know if you have any issues. Thanks.